guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over 2 different emails sent from subscribers dealing with the subject of laying down the law, establishing boundaries, and checking your girlfriend or wife when necessary, and also when you have to walk away if it goes too far. In the first email I go over is about a guy who doesn't handle things right, and to no surprise, BS continues. The second email is about a guy who absolutely handles things right, and to no surprise by laying down the law, showing he absolutely means business, led to her waking up and understanding you don't cross this guy, which led to a great marriage and family life and all that. And it backs up what I tell you, how women do not respect weak guys. And the guys they pull the BS with are guys they don't respect. And when you you show no spine, you don't show backbone, there's going to be BS. And the more weakness you show, the more BS there is. And that has been the universal theme with some of these stories the guys send in about their personal lives, or stories they're covering the other channels on it. Weak ass guys. So I'll be going to go over here, 2 good ones to go over here making my point. So for the first story, or first email, this guy says, "Hi SSM. Let's call her Vernay. We got married too young, but I was the white knight who was going to save her." Smack! White knight is going to save her and got married too young. Both her parents had been divorced twice. I thought I couldn't hold this against her. Remember, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. In other words, this is a gal from a broken home. Both sets of parents have been divorced twice, marriages and remarriages and all that. Turmoil is what she's used to. So, of course, she's going to have turmoil in her relationships, most likely. She had just got out of high school and I was 23. You got married. She just got out of high school at like 18 or 19, and you were 23 and you married her. Are you out of your mind? Smack! What the hell was the rush? Oh, you wanted to save her. After 3.5 years, I come home an hour early from work, and I saw a pickup truck in our driveway that I'd never seen before. It must be the plumber. What else could it be? And he's checking her tailpipe. That makes no sense. Mechanic is a mechanic checking her tailpipe. As I was walking for the door, I saw my wife running out to meet me, and that was unusual for her. She tried to stop me entering the house, but I pushed her out of the way. Yeah, what else is I don't think she's that excited to see you. I didn't see anybody, so I went to the den and saw no one. I came back and asked her whose truck was there and where they were. She said she didn't know anything about a truck and looked out the window to our driveway. Oh, for God's sakes. She said, "See, I don't see a truck." I yelled, "Bitch, don't lie to me. And where is the son of a bitch at?" She got scared and yelled, "Bobby, you get in here." I turned, and this bastard came walking out of our bedroom with his head down, trembling. I don't see a truck. I asked him, "What the F are you doing here?" Dude, really? What do you think? They're not playing Scrabble. He sounded like he was crying, and I didn't know. At first, I wanted to off him, but I realized I'd be spending the rest of my life in prison, and she'd be out screwing someone else if I let him run it. So I let him run out the door. Dude, nobody can blame you for doing certain things to him and her, frankly, but you want to spend your life in prison? I turned and just looked at her and didn't say a thing. After a while, she said we were just playing a trick on you. Playing a trick? Surprise! I didn't believe her, but I wanted to make sure I was right before I divorced her. Smack! What do you mean? Prove something and make sure you're right before divorcing her. What do you think was going on? Why do you think the guy was trembling, coming out of the room? Scrabble doesn't make... Scrabble might make me tremble a little bit because I don't like that game, but, really? Or bananagrams, whatever the hell letter or word games they're playing. What other proof do you need? To walk in and him plowing her? 2 days later, she said I had to call if I was going to leave early. Oh, give you advance notice I was coming home so you could get your guys out the door? A couple weeks later, I had to go out of town for my job. I called on Monday, and my wife said not to call Wednesday because she was going to take her little brother to the movies and wouldn't be home until later. Why are you still entertaining her? Why have you kicked her out? Why are you met with a divorce attorney? Clearly she knows she can get away with anything. This is why I talk about boundaries and laying down the law. I thought this wasn't right. He wasn't 6 years old. I told my boss I needed to go home and there was a personal matter and I had to take care of it. I called her Wednesday morning and told her I'd be home this afternoon. When I pulled in the driveway, my wife came out to meet me again. I thought she missed me because she was standing by my truck door before I even had time to get out. No, she's running out again to stop you from going in the house. She looked at me and said, "Go to hell, you son of a bitch. You ruined my plans." My first thought was Bobby, and second was how much longer you're going to be her fool. I would have kicked her out then, but she had went to get her little brother, and I didn't want him to see it. The next day I walked in from work, calmly sat down at the kitchen table, looked her straight in the eye where she was sitting, and said, "I want a divorce." She told me I was a dumbass and that I wasn't going to amount to anything. I'm going to amount to a lot more without having you as my wife. Yes, you were a dumbass for not kicking her out the first time and marrying her when she was 18 years old, but you were young and dumb. 5 years later, afterwards, she called me that she had remarried 3 years ago and that she didn't realize what she had with me. Well, I'm sure that felt good to hear that. I called her mother and asked her to talk to her daughter, that I want her to leave me alone. She said she would take care of it. I've been remarried now for almost 40 years, and she makes me feel like a king when I get home. I joined the army, got out of that small town. The end. Now, before I get on to the story where the guy handles things right, yes, my bro, you made a lot of mistakes, but you were obviously very young, and you learned the hard way, as many guys have to learn. So, what should he have done? The second sheet, well, first of all, he should have got married when he was 23 and she was 18. He shouldn't have been a white knight. He should have recognized she came from an effed up family, and that could have been his life, and it was. But also, when he came home and there was another dude there in the freaking house, over, goodbye, end of story. But you were shocked and blindsided and all that, but regardless. So that's not what you do. And when you didn't do anything, that showed her she can keep doing the same thing over again. But you learned, you divorced her good, and you got to have the satisfaction of her reaching out to you 5 years later and telling you, I didn't realize how good you were I didn't realize how good it was with you, blah, blah, blah. Fuck her. And I'm glad you got married again, and things have been good for you. Good for you there. Now we're going to read a story about a guy. He's writing about his dad and a story his father told him about a situation with his mother before he was born. And you're going to see his dad handles things differently, lays down the law, and watch how things go. This is quite good. It says, "Hello, SSM. First, I would like to thank you for your hard work and insight on your channels. Your humor and sarcasm cracks me up. I've continued to watch a couple of your stories each day. You actually read my story a couple months ago, titled 'Toxic Wife Thought I'd Never Leave Her to Live Another Life.' I'm not writing you about that story, but I thank you for reading it. It helped me out a lot." My pleasure. Thank you for writing it in. Or sending it in. Why am I writing to you today? It's something is that you said many times, men and women's relationship with each other have not changed with time. I have a story my dad told me when I was in my late teens about my mom that reinforces this. He says a little background about my dad as he passed away a few years ago. I'm sorry about your dad, man. He was 6'4", 220 pounds. Tough, and he didn't put up with anybody's bullshit. I can imagine. When we were kids, when he told us to do something, there was no attitude and no back talking. We just did it. To this day, I don't know why he told me this story. He was always very positive. He was always very private about personal issues of any kind. My dad and I were driving to a car race. We both raced cars when he started to talk about a problem he had with my mom 3 years into their marriage around 1959. My dad would have been 25 and my mom 26. I was not born yet, but my older brother was 1 year old at the time. A little background, my mom and dad met when my dad was in the Army, stationed in the South. When they married, they moved to my dad's hometown, a large city in the Midwest. During their first few years, they were struggling to make a living. My dad had a day job and worked a few nights as a taxi driver. My mom worked part-time in an office doing clerical work. One night my dad was not driving a taxi. He would come home and find my mom to be out with her coworkers and come in late. So your dad's busting his tail. Full-time job and then part-time job moonlighting as a taxi driver to help provide. He comes home and your mom's out with her coworkers. Here's a question. Who's watching your older brother who's 1 year old at the time? I guess with grandma or grandpa or something? She should be home with her family. My dad was working 70 hours a week, and the night he was taking off to take care of my infant brother while my mom was out having fun. This had not gone on very long when my dad confronted her and told her to stop going out and to come home after work. Well, she didn't care what my dad said and continued to go out. He drew a boundary. He laid down the law, but she pretty much said F you through her actions. But my dad had enough of this. He came up with a plan of action but needed my grandfather's help. He went to talk with my grandfather and told him what has been going on. My dad told my grandfather I want to send her back to her home in the South. Never mind, I'm returning your daughter, sir. Before my dad could say anything else, my grandfather got out his checkbook and wrote my dad a check to cover a one-way ticket back to her home city. Man, that's old school, where you'd think that her father would be like, don't you do that to my little girl, you SOB. Nope, she's coming back here. We're teaching her a lesson. That night my mom came home late again, but my dad was waiting for her. He had bought the airline ticket and gave it to her. He said, the plane leaves tomorrow morning, be on it. He told her, I want you to go home and decide if you want to be married, be a wife, and a mother or not. If you don't want to be a wife and a mother, stay there and the marriage will be over. Man, this guy isn't messing around. He didn't tell me, or I don't remember what her reaction was, but she agreed to leave. Wow, she was really testing his strength to see if he was serious. She left the next day, and after a week or two, she called my dad and said that she wanted to come back and be a wife and mother. I bet you when she was at home, she was just sitting there holding out to see if he'd call her saying he's sorry, please come back, I was wrong, blah, blah, blah. Nope. I'm sure Dad was like, not happening. Because if he would have done that, she probably would have come back and treated him worse. Girls' nights would happen all the time. She had been cheating left and right. Lord knows what was going on when she was doing this. Who knows? But regardless, he held out longer. Lucky for me, she did decide to come home, or I wouldn't have been born. My dad said after that she never went out after work again. They had a great life together and were married for 59 years until my dad passed away. This story shocked me because my mom was a great mother to me and my brother. I would never guess that their marriage almost ended. My mom is doing well, will turn 91 years old this month. Hope you like the story. Keep up the great work, David. Well, David, great story, man. And shout out to your dad, may he rest in peace, about what he did. He showed your mom he's not effing around. I love it. Plane ticket, here you go. Be on the next plane tomorrow, and you can decide. And she then realized, I'm not going to cross this guy. And I guarantee you that when she came back, I believe that there wasn't any more BS, because he showed, I'm here. That's it. Get out of here. I'm done. End of story. Here's your plane ticket. And the fact that her father took part in this. And I want to bet you that her father, your grandfather, probably read her the riot act as well. And she came back and realized, I'm not going to cross your father, otherwise he'll do it again. Or maybe next time it'll be an actual divorce. So there you go, guys. Laying down the law, establishing boundaries, not taking any bullshit. Women do not respect weakness. You got to be strong. You got to stand up for yourselves. You're allowed to, guys. I know the narrative shows you, and you see all the time movies, that guys have to just take BS and just lay down and act like total bitches for their girlfriends and wives and all that, and everything will be okay. No, it won't. Not at all. You think the bad boys would put up with any of this bullshit? Nope. Not at all. And that's the thing is, generally speaking, contrary to popular belief, women don't want guys that are assholes. Well, let me back up. There's a small percentage that are actually really attracted to assholes that are abusive. But by and large, the gals that go for guys that are a-holes is because those guys, at the very least, they may be a-holes, but they have masculine traits, which your typical nice guy does not have. So between a guy who is an a-hole, but actually acts like a fucking man and doesn't tolerate their crap, versus a guy that is nice but puts up with them, they're going to pick the a-hole. So if you can get yourself to have the happy medium by being a good guy, a good person, decent human being, but you stand up for yourself and you have self-respect and you don't tolerate any bullshit, and you check somebody, anyone, when they're disrespecting you, and you have masculine traits, good masculine traits, you're going to be fine. But there's going to be times when you are going to be tested, and you got to stand up for yourself. And oftentimes these tests come out of nowhere, and you never saw it coming. That's the important lesson to these stories. So both of you guys, thank you for sending these in. And a shout out to your old man. I know may he rest in peace, but I'm glad he shared that. I think your dad shared that story with you, man, as a lesson about female nature to help you in life eventually ever get in a situation like that. And I'm sure it probably is hard to imagine your mom behaving in that way back then. But it doesn't make a difference. This is the 1960s, I guess. See? Decades ago, men do what they do, women do what they do, etc., etc. That's why these stories are timeless, and there's always a lesson to be learned. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And, guys, you got a good story you want me to cover? Email me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it, and I definitely will when I get the chance. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.